And we're back. This is Talking Together. And this time around, I thought I would do something special. So a lot of folks ask me, so I get questions all the time. One question I get is, Richard, like, how is it possible for you to, do the work that you do on Fox and continue with your clients and manage everything? How do you keep sane? How do you keep happy? How do you do it all? I have a secret weapon. Her name is Claudia Cauterucci. She's my therapist. She's also the founder of Dynamic Meditation. Oprah has Dr. Phil. I have Claudia. Claudia, welcome to Talking Together.
Thank you so much, Richard. What a beautiful way of introducing me. I just love being here because I think it's so needed.
But Claudia, let's just start this conversation at this. I mean, I think there's so many folks out there, right, who are just really dealing with high levels of trauma because of social isolation. I mean, you might be somebody who you spend a lot of your life out and about. You spend your life on airplanes. You spend your life in hotels. And now you've been relegated to the four walls of your home or with family, if that's where you're staying with family. And you have to deal with this adjustment. It happened abruptly. You didn't ask for it. Here you are.
Sure.
So let's start there.
Which is the exact meaning of trauma. I mean, trauma is sort of what they call simple trauma, is the experience of going from one way of living, a dramatic event happens, and then your whole world shifts and changes. I think what you're speaking to is that this is a time of high triggering, right? Triggers. So it begins with the collective. The whole planet is getting triggered by this experience of feeling. Really what it activates is our extinction programs, right? Our feelings of survival. But not only is the collective getting triggered, the individual stuff that we've got, what you were talking about being on the couch, all that stuff is getting triggered as well. Whether it was, feeling unprotected as a child or feeling alone. And what you're describing with the social isolation is either feeling like you've got to connect with your family, because there's different experiences of this. Someone can be alone, all alone in their apartment, and so it can activate senses of childhood loneliness, intense childhood loneliness. Or the other, if you tend to be an avoidant person when you're a couple or when you're in your family, to all of a sudden be thrown together with your family or with your spouse can also be activating. So this is a time of getting highly triggered.
And I want to get into that. We're seeing people trying to find different ways and different methods to sort of reach out to folks. Like you see people having Zoom happy hours. People are like, my family this week, we have a cousins every standing Friday Zoom happy hour. So even in this distancing, while we're dealing with trauma, it seems like the human spirit is finding new ways to connect, even though we are socially distant.
Absolutely. Actually, Richard, when you said like doing these types of programs is key. It's essential for us to be human together, but human on a connected level, and human in talking about what we're feeling and what's happening. So you doing this is so powerful. And you know that on a personal level, the idea of connecting with someone and just opening your heart with all of your feelings, including fear, but including joy. And I think you're absolutely right. What we're seeing is the zeitgeist, like what's happening right now, is that people are actually coming together. I
don't want to interrupt you, but there's a point you made that I think was just epic. And I really want to dig deeper on it. Opening your heart, even in a world where it comes to fear. Now, because that, right,
yes,
that's a total aha moment, right? Because I think the natural response that humans have to fear is to run from it. You see a dog coming, you run the opposite direction. You see crazy, you cross the street. But what I think in this moment, in this time, God, universe, spirit, what it's saying to us is actually, there's actually power, and your healing exists in the world where you can open up your heart to others, especially when it comes to dealing with your fear.
Yes, yes, yes. So exactly, the instinct in fear is to close down and is fight or flight, right? Or freeze. Some of us freeze in the moment, right? And what's happening, and what I'm encouraging to is exactly what you're saying is the anomaly. The anomaly being become more vulnerable in these moments, right? It's almost like when a dog just turns over and shows you his tummy. It's like that, becoming vulnerable together. But isn't it interesting, Richard, that a lot of people are doing that? That there's so much humanity, connected humanity going on. Um, and part of becoming vulnerable is actually speaking to what we're feeling, really across the board, whether that's meditation or therapy or close friends or lovers, right? To actually really speak to what we're feeling. And I'm really calling it a restoration of the heart. Like, this is a time to restore the heart.
And I love you said that. So Claudia has known me for a very long time. So there's a story that I want to share with you guys, which I think speaks to how we deal with fear programming, right? And because here's the truth: we all have fear. Period.
Oh.
Moving on, next case, right? The jury has ruled on this already, folks. But there was a moment when I was on vacation and we were cliff jumping, and cliff jumping is not my ideal of a good time. And as I was cliff jumping, and Claudia, I want you to talk about how, like, because I'll tell you what happened, and Claudia could talk you through the steps of that, because I think especially now we need to deal with unraveling many of these things. We open up our hearts in this world where some of us are being forced to now live in the four walls and deal with what is, right? Is, when you're making that jump, when you're trying to take on the fear, when you're trying to deal with the fear, is dealing with what are the survival programs, and Claudia's going to explain that in a second, right? That get you to overcome the fear. What are the survival programs? So talk to folks about what survival programs actually are and what the 3 survival programs are.
So the way that I like talking about it is I like breaking it down into sort of just normal language. So what happens when we get fear, right? So there's a stimulus and it feels dangerous. Now, sometimes that can be our mom's tone of voice. Sometimes it could be taking a leap like what you did. Sometimes it can be going into the unknown, starting a new relationship. It doesn't matter,
And
right?
sometimes in this situation that we're now, it could just be being in your house and dealing with the fear of maybe my job won't come back. It could be being in
Oh,
your house and the fear of maybe I'll lose my friends. It could be being in this house and saying the fear of just being alone. And
I
now
have people who are saying, we're not dating. I'm not dating anymore. I really wanted to find a relationship. I'm not dating. What does this mean? Right? Or people who are small business owners. So this is really, it's in some ways, I want to convey that this is a rich moment. And you know me, Richard, to do deep, intense work. Okay, so we go into code yellow, code orange, and code red internally. Okay, so in different situations, we'll activate each code. But the survival programs that we're running on all the time, okay, is wanting safety,
one
wanting
wants safety,
control,
2
yes,
control,
and wanting approval,
approval.
okay? And usually, the way I like to describe it is when we're in wanting, like wantingness, there's a feeling of lack. Okay, so it's not really that having safety or the feelings of having control or having approval, that's not dangerous or bad. It's when we feel we don't have them that what happens, and if everyone as you're listening can feel that, like when we feel lacky or wanty for approval, safety, or control, there's an energy that starts to get activated, and it's a fearful energy, and it can become a desperate energy. And I'm a big proponent of sort of letting go of desperate wanting, what I call desperate wanting. So when you're getting activated, and we can talk right now, Richard, about an actual tool, is to say, is this about wanting safety, wanting control, or wanting approval? Right? Is this about wanting safety, wanting control, or wanting approval? If it's activating all the 3 survival, and this is what I do in dynamic meditation, if it's activating all 3 survival programs, then you're highly activated. Let's say you're in code red. If it's activating one, it's still energizing in a fearful way, and so part of the process, and I'm not sure, Richard, if you'd like me to go into showing how we do it, but is part of what we work in with dynamic meditation is starting to deactivate these stressful survival programs.
And I think that's what makes the dynamic meditation model, right, the philosophy, so powerful. Because even if you think about it, Claudia, in this COVID-19 coronavirus bubble that we are literally trapped in, right, is when you move, and you say it all the time, and I feel like I'm stealing your thunder, but you always say, like, you have to move away from wanting into having. And just think about this from a social distance. So if your fear, if you're watching this program, is I'm afraid of being alone, right? And so I want to be around people. But if you get rid of the wanting, you could actually have it, because the habit is what you're seeing pop up all across social media, right? Is you see people doing, like, I haven't spoken to my cousins, right? And we, like, individually we talk, but we have now a weekly Friday happy hour, like I started at the beginning of this, right? Me and my best friends from college, we have a bi-weekly happy hour. So in order for me to have these conversations, in order for me to go away from being isolated to having people around me, if I just got rid of the wanting, then I could see the solution to actually having. I like to always say, Claudia, that for every wall that is presented in your life, there's always a door. If you take a minute to take a deep breath, realize that the door is there. The door might be a high door. There might be some challenges to get to the door, but there's always a door. And I think our survival programs, whether it be lacking of control, lacking of approval, or lacking of safety, causes us to not see the door.
Absolutely. Listen, there's so many beautiful. I feel you're not stealing my thunder. You're becoming an expert. So I love it. I love it. Really beautifully explained. And I think there's tons of ways to talk about this. So one way is psychologically. Let's just go with psychology, right? So what happens is anything that we're feeling on the inside, our perceptual field, if you can imagine, right? Our lens will see that. Okay, so if they've done studies on depressed clients, patients, right, who watch a movie, and what they end up remembering were the rainy scenes, the gray scenes, the abandonments, the heartbreaks. Okay, with anxious patients, what they end up seeing are the moments of high danger constantly. Okay, so what we're experiencing internally becomes our perceptual field. So if we apply that to sort of that wantingness, right? So when we're in wanting, let's say we're wanting money or we're wanting safety, what our perceptual field will open up to is all the ways that we don't have money, all the ways that we're unsafe, all the ways that danger is near constantly, okay? So once we really, now this is a body process. So I want everyone to know that. It can't be just intellectual.
Can you explain that body process? I really think, like, now, especially as people, I mean, I think there's different people in different places right now, but I think explain that body process sort of in the context of the fact that we have been locked down for 4 weeks, and given what the reporting is, will likely be locked down for the next month. So what does that body process look like, and how can folks achieve that, right? Because I think that is what we're all trying to be, is better people, our better version of ourselves. And so for those people who are committing in this period to doing some growth, how do they touch it and feel it and get to it?
Sure. This work cannot be done without using the body. Period, punto, begin new paragraph, like you said. Okay. Trauma work, anxiety work, panic attacks, phobia, any fear cannot be used without what I call the Trinity: mind, body, spirit. And spirit being the energies that we fill ourselves with. Okay, so that's why we cannot read a book on phobia. We can read it, we learn it mentally, But unless we're applying and calming down the body, what happens with people with PTSD is that the trauma gets stored, right? There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. The body keeps the score. And so what happens is, let's say a vet hears a helicopter, and the vet might throw himself on the ground, and it might be just a weather helicopter in Washington, D.C., not in Iraq. Okay, what happens is the body gets activated. The heart races, central nervous system, right? Hands sweat, jagged and fast breathing. And that happens to us. It's happening now. People are waking up at 3 a.m. with these reactions.
Or they're not going to sleep. There's so many folks who I'm talking to are saying, I'm not sleeping.
Oh.
And I mean, it has everything to do with the fact that my life is completely off balance. I'm used to being moving. I'm used to going to my office. I'm used to dealing with rush hour traffic. And the fact that all of these normalcies, right, that have been part of my life are no longer here. And I mean, the best way to describe it is the structure. And people say, oh, I have a very unstructured life. But even in your unstructured life, the structure has been, there's holes all through the structure currently. Because even if your life was unstructured, the unstructuredness of that is structure.
Absolutely.
And I think since people have lost that structure, they're not sleeping, anxiety, fear, old things creep up. Things you thought you've moved on from creep up because
overeating.
Absolutely. Guilty.
Maybe you're, smoking way more weed than you used to. You're finding yourself trying to fill those routines, right? So I want to propose that this is the time. This is the time. Now check it out. Because our routines are off, our structures have been smashed, correct? In this, it's that whole, Chinese saying that crisis is an opportunity, right? That this is a moment to dig deep and say, okay, my routines are completely off. How do I want to move in to my next stage? Right? So yes, you're getting activated. Yes, you're getting triggered. Yes, you're off kilter. Yes, there are tools in place for you to use this moment and make it a very, very rich one. It's actually what meditation does, period. It presses pause for us to see what's going on inside and then figure out how to shift and harness. I feel like dynamic meditation is all about massive training in how to handle our feelings. Like we become, and obviously you're displaying this, like Jedi masters at having feelings, allowing them, not being afraid of them, right? The reasons why we're overeating or smoking too much weed or maybe binging all day long on TV, even on the news, right? We feel that binging on the news all day long is soothing, but maybe it's just activating, right? Is to cover what we're actually feeling.
And I'm glad, and I want to put a pin in that point because I think that's so powerful, right? And the one thing that you learn in dynamic meditation is that it is okay to have the feeling. We've learned, especially as men in life, right? Black men in particular, we've learned to swallow feelings. Like bad feelings, you swallow. If you're sad, don't show the world you're sad. If you're grieving, don't show the world you're grieving. If you are in this COVID-19 sort of cocoon or this bubble, don't show the world or don't tell your friends. When your friends call you and they're doing a wellness check and you're like, oh, I'm good, I'm great, when really deep down inside, you're scared, you're sad, you're lonely. It is okay, and I think this is such a rich point. It is okay, and it's almost healthy to let that feeling come out, and so it could move along, right? And that's one of the first things that I learned when working with Claudia is have the feeling, give yourself time to have the feeling. If you want to be sad, close your room door and cry and get it out, because when you suppress the feeling, how I like to say it, Claudia, is it turns into a wedding cake, right? It's like, so you have the first layer, sadness, then the sadness turns into grief, and then the grief turns into this, and then you're soothing this wedding cake, when if you had just dealt with the fact that you were sad that you could no longer go to a trip or you can no longer go to vacation, and you talked about that sadness and you let that sadness out, it wouldn't have time to be the foundation for what can be a very, very, very multi-tiered wedding cake.
I mean, you've covered so many points.
I know.
Let's get, I know, it's so exciting.
So many interviews that we've got to do.
So exciting.
Trying to get everything out, and it can't be.
It's so exciting, and it's so, listen, feelings are what makes us human.
Boom.
Shout out to men. Men are limited to lust. They can feel lust, they can feel rage, they can feel anger.
And here's the point on that, right? Is usually 9 times out of 10, the rage and the anger are like, if we're going back to the wedding cake analogy, it's like the bride and groom at the top of the cake.
Yeah.
But when you get down to the bottom of that cake is just straight up. It's a slab of sadness. And if you dealt with the sadness, you would never get to rage and anger.
Yes. It's the grief.
Or grief, or it could be many different things. Sadness is for this
or
example.
the aloneness, or the vulnerability, but listen, there's another side that's purely physical and biological. If you're not, first of all, if you're not releasing your feelings, they're coming out anyway. They will ambush you as panic attacks. They will ambush you as phobia. You're yelling at your kids in the car.
Rage.
Okay. So your feelings are leaking all over the place, whether you want it or not. What I propose is, let's have them. The other thing is, cancer, any type of headaches, constant headaches, high blood pressure, this is all about stored feelings. So if we've had trauma and it's been kept a secret and it's not been revealed and we're not having our feelings, or if we're raging all the time, right? We need to go in and have it. Richard, the thing is, we've got to do it together.
That part.
Because sometimes it's terrifying. I had a client who came in and said he lost both his mother and his father in 1 month, male. And he said, I can't cry. And he said, because I feel like if I start crying, I'll never stop. I won't get myself to work. And so we talked about finding a beginning point and an end point every day to crying. And what I encourage men, for example, to do, cry in the shower. Like, let's start there. Just have a quick cry in the shower, get that energy out, done. You're done.
And you almost, when you do that though, you literally start to feel better. I know we don't have much time on this interview, but I think that point brings up such a great, like, even in my own life, right? I rarely share these things. Claudia knows this, but there was many years where it was a debate and a battle between my doctor around whether or not I should go on high blood pressure medication or not, because my blood pressure was through the roof, right? Until I started dealing with, and I think that's why it's so important.
And you're young.
And I'm young. I'm 33 years old, right? I was 28, 29 at the time. So I started dealing with all the stuff, right? Like dealing with the emotional, like dealing with sadness, dealing with that, realizing that I need to sort of tone down and change certain notes and practices in my daily structure to make my life work, right? My blood pressure dropped instantly. As soon as I started to put these practices in being, when you talk about soul, body, mind, right? That's what it's all about. Like, you literally can, and I'm not saying there's folks out there who hereditarily have high blood pressure. That's something completely different. But if your high blood pressure is due to situational awareness or due to your surroundings, by just simply taking the moment out to deal with all the things that's laid on top of your heart, which is what's causing your high blood pressure to begin with, you can really start to see the change. And in this period, now I'm focusing to stay home and stay safe and everything the CDC says, right? But in these moments, right, in this moment, because a lot of us are forced now, Claudia, more than ever, to deal with the quiet, to deal with the stillness, right? Because we're so used to, as a coping mechanism in life, is, surround ourselves with noise. Go to a noisy bar. Go out to a nightclub. There's noise. There's people. There's all the stuff that you're surrounding yourself with to not deal with the stillness. But I do believe that I think everything is a hidden blessing, right? And I think these moments of us being like being the universe forcing us to be still is a very powerful moment to realize, what do I need to learn in this stillness? I mean, and I think there was a recent report that came out from seismologists that said the vibrations on the earth because of COVID-19 have got quieter. Like there's less things moving. The earth is more still, right?
Isn't that
Like the
amazing?
seismic shake that is the train, the bus, the cars. Now the
Right,
seismic
right.
vibes, levels, whatever, has gotten lower because we've been forced as human beings to just be still. And in that stillness, I think there's a lot of power.
But listen, Richard, this is true with everything. If you just went through a divorce and it feels horrible and catastrophic, sit down and look through it, right? Let's find the richness in it. What needs to be revealed around this? Someone sent me an article that talked about, and I'm going to use this word, apocalypse, really meaning in the Greek language, in its original language, meaning revelation,
Mm, wow.
meaning eye opening.
I got goosebumps.
Right, right. It doesn't mean, I mean, for some people who allow the fear to continue, it's going to feel catastrophic, yes. But this can be a moment, listen, with any hardship, right? Which is what we see in therapy all the time. People come in activated, triggers, depressions, divorces, being alone for too long. You know, I'm 40 and I'm not married, things like that. What can we do? And the first place to start, which is what you're describing, is going inside. But I want to encourage people, listen, that's really, really scary sometimes to do by yourself. It really is. And it's scary to do it without tools. It is. And so we don't blame people who want to run from what they're feeling, especially if they've got some massive pain going on. So we do it together. And we do it with actual tools, like actual tools.
Now, Claudia, what do you say to the person watching this right now, sitting on their couch, right, who's actually living in the muck and the fear of whether it be isolation, the fear of they might have just lost their job, the fear of for students that might be watching who went from just starting to like school to now having all their classes on the internet. Like, how can that person right now do like a 2-minute healing or on their situation themselves? How can they realign body, spirit, mind?
Mm-hmm. Would you like me to talk about that or show it?
Oh, let's show it. Why not?
Okay,
They
okay.
could do it with us.
Okay, yeah, exactly, exactly. So the idea with that, which is what I'm doing in my groups, is saying, listen, the external stimuli will always happen in life. Okay, the external. The stock market is always going to go up and down. Your weight is going to go up and down, whether your boss is grumpy or not, whether you might be on the verge of losing your job, whether, you know, infidelity is on the verge. It doesn't matter. The external stimuli in life always exists. And this is a major external stimuli, okay, which is activating all sorts of other stuff, okay? The idea, okay, and people are saying it's unpredictable, right? With meditation or with any self-exploration or internal work, therapy, meditation, you pick, okay? The predictability becomes inside in how you respond to it.
Mm, yes.
Right? In psychology, we call it the locus of control. It moves from being external, because if my external locus of control is the stock market, I'm going to be up and down and up and down and up. If it's my weight, up and down. If it's my bank account, up and down. If it's my mom's mood, up and down, right? So how does it become predictable and safe? Is how I'm responding to it. And meditation strengthens that. So let's do just a quickie, what I call a cleanup. Is that okay? Let's
Let's
do it together. And this is very dynamic meditation. It's something, listen, what I say about dynamic is that it's portable, it's practical, and it's passionate. So if you're on the metro, or if you're in a staff meeting, or you're receiving a phone call, or you're on your couch, this is what we do. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to notice your breath, right? Because the breath tells us, are you activated or not? If your breath is short and ragged, you're activated. You're living from your chest up. Okay? So I want you to take a deep breath from the belly. And I want your outside, your exhale, to be longer than your inhale, because that begins to calm the central nervous system. So whether you believe in meditation or not, this is a way to calm your body. So breathe in and elongate your exhale. And I'd like you to see your breath as a way of coming home. And now the breath is so important during COVID-19 because it's breath. It's our breath that's being affected. So take a deep breath again and elongate. I'm going to do this quickly because we don't have much time, but I'd like you to pull up any feeling. I just want you to name it. What feeling are you having right now? Maybe you're frustrated. How about this one? You're restless. You're so restless. Maybe you're afraid. Maybe you're thinking about the future. Come back to the breath and elongate out. Okay. Now, is this feeling about wanting safety, wanting control, or wanting approval? Just notice, because that's the survival program that's running inside of you, and it's keeping you activated in danger mode. And if you're in danger mode, your immune system is going down. It's using all of its resources to keep you from danger. So if you're sitting on your couch right now, you're actually not in danger right this moment, okay? Just notice that right this moment, you're not in danger. So take a deep breath. Now answer, is this about wanting control, wanting safety, or wanting approval? And I'm going to ask you, just for right now, while we're together, if you can let go, just right now, open up your hands, either wanting safety, wanting control, or wanting approval, so you can move into having it. So can you let go of wanting that safety? It's an energy. It's the out of safety energy that's filling you, or wanting control, or wanting approval. And notice that there's a lacking energy running through your body. So can you let it go so you can move into having it? And in dynamic meditation, the tagline is say yes. And so we say, yes, can I let go of this? Yes, and yes, and yes. I'm going to bring you back. Yes.
I mean that, and here's the thing, folks. Like that tool is literally potable. You could take that portable, rather. You could take that anywhere. I mean, it's a tool that I use. There'll be times where I want to get home after a delayed flight, right? Which is no longer my existence. And I would literally be like, okay, there's anxiety coming because this flight's not going fast enough. And right there in the airport, you can literally deal with what that anxiety is and move that out the way so you can move into having it, right? And then it becomes less about, you know, whether the plane leaves on time and more about, well, will the plane get there safely, right? But you have to change your thinking, and part of that is doing this portable exercise, which I do all the time. Thank you so much for demonstrating that, Claudia.
Yes.
And I think especially
It deactivates the survival programs over time. So don't stress about the first times you do it. Just keep doing it. Keep doing it. Go ahead, Richard.
But I think that there's just, like, I think as we get ready to close here, I think especially in this moment that we're in, where there's so many people dealing with so much real stuff, right? They're dealing with real stuff in the usual way. Society always gave us an escape hatch, right? We can go outside, we can go, we talk about this on and on, but you can, dive into work. You can stay at your office late. You can, study for extra hours and not deal with it. And this portable tool allows you to deal with it. And I think that if you're safe and you're healthy in this sort of coronavirus lockdown that we're in, take this time. And when I say safe and healthy, I mean you're in a safe place and you are healthy, right? Take this time to really deal with all the stuff that you've sort of packed away. You've put in closets, you've put in the spiritual garages of our lives, right?
Declutter emotionally. Declutter.
And I think this is one of the reasons why I was so happy that you could do this today, because I think it's so important that people actually have a real tool that they can use as they're now forced to deal with what has become our new existence, the stillness, right? And the stillness is when a lot of these things lurk up and you don't have the soothing mechanism saying, I can go outside, I can go hang out, I can go to a bar, I can go to a nightclub, I can go bury myself in the office to deal with that thing or to push it off. Now you got to deal with, honey, because there's nothing else you can do.
Yeah, right on.
Tool helps you do that, which is why I'm so happy that you could be our 4th episode of Talking Together.
Oh, thank you so much. I want this for people. I really want this for people. Let's make this a rich time.
Oh, I mean, that's the thing. And I sincerely, like, when people come up to me, Claudia, and they ask me, like, how you're just so happy, you're so kind.
Yes.
And I'm like, don't get me wrong, I have real issues and real stuff that I deal with. But because of this tool, I've been able to declutter. And I think it's just such a valuable tool right now, given that people are now having to deal and live in the silence.
Right. We just become lighter, right, Richard? It's just lighter. It's lighter because we've unpacked. Like, we just deal with things lighter. So it doesn't mean, which is what you're saying, that stuff isn't coming at you all the time, Richard, especially you. Your external stimuli is just always coming at you, right? And it's being able to find that predictability and that ability to clean up, keep cleaning up, to find the way to handle this external world that's hitting it.
And here's
I've got a lot of free stuff on my YouTube. Like,
oh yeah, definitely check out what is it, youtube.com/dynamic meditation or DY meditation, I believe.
Yes.
Definitely check it out. They're free tools that you can use. There's a really amazing tool on there about dealing. There's literally one on, like, dealing with fear and getting yourself out of fear. So folks, go check that out. Claudia Cauterucci is amazing. I'm happy that I was able to bring her to my digital platform, because she's been the person that has for many years kept me sane.
Well, it's amazing that you yourself aren't keeping this confidential and you're being open, and it's going to open doors for many people, Richard. Listen, that you're sort of being vulnerable, actually.
Oh, of course. And I mean, here's the thing. I think you learn, and I think that there is, for folks who know me, there's strength in vulnerability. And there's strength in being real and honest, that here's the truth, no matter whether you do what I do for a living, or you're a teacher, or you're a doctor, or you're, especially doctors and nurses right now, and healthcare professionals, but you might be an Uber driver, or you might be a grocery store worker, or you might be a hairdresser, a makeup artist. This tool can be used for everybody.
Everything.
And you really can make your life better. The only thing that I ask, right, is what I'm doing is you pass this tool on to somebody else so that they can make the life improvements. Because I think this is one of those things, whether you believe in God, universe, or spirit, right, that this is a tool, like,
It's neutral. It's like tofu. Add it to whatever religious
absolutely.
tradition you have. It
And
doesn't matter.
I think it's almost a tool that was, it's the self mechanism, the ideal that this is all. And if you saw when we did this meditation demonstration here, it's all about the breath, and the breath is something that God literally gave you, right, or universe or spirit, and you could use that as a tool to heal all the other things that happens around, that's coming at you or that's happening around you. And I think that's just so powerful, and which is why I'm happy we could do this.
Thank you. Thank
So
you
thank
for your
you.
vulnerability and openness. Really,
How can
really.
folks find out more about dynamic
Yeah,
meditation, Claudia Cauterucci?
absolutely. So just one thing that I like doing things for free. So every Monday night, I'm actually doing a guided meditation. And I guess you can email me or find me on YouTube. But I'm doing a guided meditation that's free. That's for anyone and everyone. Join me on that. And on Thursday nights, I'm actually doing dynamic meditation groups. Now, these aren't HIPAA compliant. I'm not doing psychotherapy. I'm teaching people the skill. Anyone. They don't have to be clients. They don't have to be patients.
Work on yourself in this moment so you can come out of this corona like this apocalypse, this revelation, being a new you and being ready to conquer what will be our new world and our new existence. Claudia,
Yes.
thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We'll see you on another episode of Talking Together. I'm Richard Fowler.